Baseball Eve, Gator. Tomorrow the games are for real. Tigers and Rays. Catch it on the station. Gator, normally this is an optimistic, exciting time. Springs, weather warms up, and you can at least talk yourself into the Tigers. I don't think that's the case this year. What I want to do is just gauge the mood of Tiger fans. Can I get away with that? Can we talk a little bit about this team on the eve of the season? I know tomorrow you'll do bold-ass predictions.
Yeah, tomorrow there's some meaty topics to get into with the Tigers in baseball tomorrow. Yeah,
but I'm having a hard time. Like normally I can convince myself, like, you never know. Like last year they're coming off a 77-win season. You never know. I'm just so jaded, and the offseason was lacking any urgency.
Well, lacked a lot in the offseason.
So, I mean, you tell me where your mood is. Tiger fans, feel free to jump in, 248-539-9797. Morning Show broke the seal. They brought him up earlier. Gator, I think they're going to flirt with 100 losses again. And I just have a hard time. Like, I'll be excited for the home opener. It's a party downtown. But outside of that, like, help me out. Are you excited?
Well, I admittedly love baseball. I love the Tigers. I love baseball. I love going to the ballpark and just hanging out. You know, I'm not one of those people that needs to be distracted and do all these other things. I can go to the ballpark by myself and really enjoy it. But this feel of this team this year is different. And I try to find some silver linings. And I try to think of, where it was a year ago with this team. We were optimistic. The Tigers had come off winning, 77 games. Mm-hmm. They added Javi Baez. They looked like, okay, they're going to take a step in the right direction.
Eduardo Rodriguez.
Right, Eduardo Rodriguez. And then after like a month or so, you realized, we got some problem. Wheels are starting to come off. And then you had injuries to starting pitchers that you wanted to see. And, there goes Casey Mize. There goes Derek Skubal. There goes, Manning. And everyone's getting hurt here, and this is no good. And we're pitching without Spencer Turnbull because he hurt himself at the end of the other year. And Javi Baez isn't hitting. Jonathan Scope's not hitting. Jeimer Candelario's not hitting. Stop me if you've heard this before. Nobody's hitting. Miguel Cabrera is done. This is not good, right?
Yeah.
And last season was horrible. The league average for OPS last season, that's on base plus slugging percentage, for an average major leaguer last year, I believe was like 715, 720, somewhere in that range. The Tigers had like 0 regular players. I think Eric Haas may have been close to it, and maybe he was actually at that number above it, but I don't know if he would have qualified as a regular player.
That'd be my thought too, yeah.
Yeah. So they had nobody was there. Everybody was in the 600s or below.
Disaster.
Like, you couldn't have written a worse script for this team last year. So I guess where my hope stems from
can't be that bad.
Is that last year had to be, and I'm going to use the term again, and it's second day in a row, a statistical anomalation, as we say on the show. There's no way that could happen again, right? Now, could Miguel Cabrera be the same player he was last year? Yeah, he's at the end of his career, literally the end of his career. I hope we get something out of it. But I also think that A.J. Hinch is going to manage it to the point where Miguel's not going to take at bats away from other players. They're going to manage Miguel. He's going to play, 2 out of 3 games at best or whatever.
Make sure he gets the key to whatever city he's in and then move on.
Yeah, right. Let him do his whirlwind tour, and he should be honored every ballpark in the country. Do it. Yeah, that makes sense. But the other guys can't have those years. Javi Baez is not that bad of a player, right? He's not. And yet he was last year offensively and defensively, which was the big surprise at how bad he looked towards the end of the season there. I think they decided that we're done with the Castros. We're going to move on. We're going to try something else.
A couple guys from the Phillies who may or may not be Castros in disguise.
Well, maybe, but Mayton at least looks like he's got something. He did something in the spring. Nobody knows about him until you see him in a Tiger uniform. You watch him in the spring, and he performed well. I don't know much about Vierling.
He's a platoon bat. He'll hit lefties.
But the fact is they needed to upgrade at third base because Candelario just wasn't hitting. He led the league in doubles 2 years ago and then disappeared. So what do you got? Well, hopefully it's something better. What I wanted all along, and Kang knows this, The guy I was banking on that can't be left out in the cold is Kerry Carpenter, because Kerry Carpenter is the only guy last year to hit.
King, he loves Kerry Carpenter.
He finds a guy every year.
I find a guy every year. But it's not like, okay, Carpenter's not my Springsteen, okay? That's not the story.
Hey.
All right,
That's reserved for
right,
that's elite company.
That's
man.
different.
You haven't gone to see him in person 120 times.
Well, you get 120 plate appearances.
Right. But what Kerry Carpenter did last year in the minors, each week we'd update, like, my God, he had two more home runs this week, and you look at it, he's got like
Little pop.
26 home runs on the year. When are they going to bring him up? Finally, they bring him up, and what does he do? He hits extra bases. He gets on base. He plays the position well enough in the outfield that he doesn't look like a liability. And when all's said and done, he was their best hitter last year. And the thought that he wasn't going to make the team out of spring training, I'm like, you got to be kidding me, because this guy is still hitting in spring training. And the talk was Akil Baddoo or Kerry Carpenter. And I get it, because you're going to have to make a decision on whether you want offense in terms of somebody at the plate, or do you want speed on the base paths? And it's a legitimate argument because of the changes in baseball, with the pitch clock, with the limiting of throwing over to first base, the size of the bases. Everything is to a base runner's advantage now, and you can make the argument that that's why you would hang on to Baddoo over somebody else. I'm just glad that Carpenter made the team, because if they were to have Akil Baddoo on the team, Carpenter deserved to be on the team too. Let somebody else go by the wayside, but not Kerry Carpenter.
You brought up the bigger bases. I think there's going to be more stolen bases because of the limited pickoff throws. I actually think the sport's going to be a better watch, because baseball had descended into the true outcomes of strikeouts or home runs, the two true outcomes. Now we're going to get a little more base running, a little more pressure on the pitcher, got to execute, pitch clock. I'm excited for the sport. And I look at the Tigers and I think, okay, yeah, maybe the offense can perk up a little bit just because it can't be so bad. And if they can get back to 2021 where they stole a few more bases, they were in a few more games.
Yeah, because when they stole bases, they won.
Yeah, they won 77 games. But you didn't bring up any of the pitching. And that's actually my frustration, because, and again, I'm not going to hold Scott Harris to this, but the previous general manager, Al Avila, went stockpiling of young arms. And here they are 6 years later after drafting all these young arms. And I look at this rotation and I'm like, yeah, Eduardo Rodriguez is probably all right. And then it's a whole lot of meh.
Well, Rodriguez is good.
Turnbull's coming off of Tommy John. He hasn't pitched since June 4th of 2021. I'm sorry if I don't think very highly of him. Matthew Boyd, they brought the fences in. My whiplash is last time he was here, he gave up the most home runs in baseball. Now they're moving the fences in. Who am I missing? Lorenzen's injured, so it's going to be Wentz, who's unproven and has had a rocky road to get to the major leagues with the injuries. And I'm missing one other guy. I mean, their rotation isn't inspiring. Matt Manning, who has never really impressed me. I don't know that they have much of a rotation at all. Their bullpen lost 3 critical pieces. Maybe they can smoke and mirror it again, but I feel like you can't fake pitching. Even if the offense is a little better, and it has to be, you can't fake pitching.
I think the rotation is better than what you're painting. I think the bullpen is a bit of a mess. The bullpen scares the hell out of me, because I think Eduardo Rodriguez is a plus pitcher. I think he's good.
I think he's better than people realize, because last year was so weird.
Yeah, well, last year was again a statistical anomaly. You know what went on with him off the field.
But everything can't be an anomaly.
No, not everything. But last year it felt like it was, because these players were 100 points below their average in OPS. I mean, below their average. Now, these were career lows for all these guys. So with the pitching rotation, I like Rodriguez. Manning has promise, but he's not a top end of the guy rotation, and nor is he supposed to be on this team. Boyd's interesting, a little bit of a head scratcher, but yet he pitched really well in the spring. Does he figure some things out? I don't know. I'm not counting on it, because we've seen him pitch forever, and then he went away for a little bit. Now he's back. I don't know. I think Turnbull is kind of the key. He has to be what he was before he got hurt, which was very promising. He had the no-hitter. People were talking about him before the no-hitter as being a guy to look out for, and then he ends up having the arm event. They still have stockpiled a bunch of arms. It's just sad that the arms are hurt. that you've got Mize and Skubal that are out there.
I know
this
it's
year
hindsight, but isn't it dumb to build around starting pitching when guys are throwing fewer innings than ever before? The number of 200-inning guys goes down every year. The number of injuries seemingly goes up every year. To build around starting pitching,
well, if you're gonna,
felt like a dumb thing.
We don't need to bag on Al Avila anymore because he's not here.
Sure,
but
we're reaping the rewards of Al Avila's tenure, and that's why maybe I'm just too jaded, but I just don't see it.
I think you're jaded because I'm not, well, and I'm also looking for the positive side of it. I think with the young arms that are hurt, when you look at Mize and Skubal specifically, Skubal's really good. Mm-hmm. Mize still has to prove himself. He's shown flashes where he can be where he is. And then they've got a couple of other pitchers that they just recently drafted. We'll see what Jackson Jobe is and a couple of the other guys.
Would have preferred Marcelo Meyer.
Well, fair enough, but they've got Jackson Jobe. You have who you have. And I do think pitching is awfully important, particularly if you don't have a bullpen, then you're relying on these guys that they need to get closer to 200 innings. And the fact that they've already had their arm events, I feel better about that because you're not waiting for the arm event. It's already happened. And usually once it's already happened, you come back stronger and you don't have to worry about it again.
The bullpen, you mentioned. Okay, they actually had a good bullpen last year.
Yeah.
There was this sick irony that all those years they were good, they never could close games, and then they finally had a unit that could shut people down, and they never had the lead. Gator, they had 5 guys appear in 60 or more games. 3 of them are gone. Mm-hmm. And they brought in some guys on minor league deals and minor league options. And listen, you can, to an extent, play mix and match, smoke and mirror in the bullpen. That may be the most unpredictable position group on any team in baseball, the volatility. But I can't imagine they're going to be as stellar as they were last year. You want to talk about things that got up and down, water finds its level, fine. Maybe some of these guys will hit a little better, but I also think the bullpen's coming down to earth, and I think the rotation's not going to do them any favors.